The architect of the mind, Saturn in the third house. In the cosmic map of the natal chart, the third house represents the immediate environment, the way we process information, and the bridge between our inner thoughts and the outer world. It governs siblings, short-distance travel, and, most importantly, the mechanics of communication. When Saturn, the planet of discipline, restriction, and karma, takes up residence here, the lightness usually associated with this house, ruled naturally by Gemini, is replaced by a profound sense of gravity and responsibility. The weight of words. For an individual with Saturn in the third house, communication is rarely small talk. There is often an innate hesitation to speak until a thought is fully formed, polished, and verified. In childhood, this may have manifested as a speech impediment, shyness, or a feeling that one's ideas were not taken seriously by authority figures. You might have felt that you had to be correct or useful every time you opened your mouth, leading to a lifelong habit of editing yourself before you even begin to speak. This placement suggests a mind that functions like a master stonecutter rather than a free-flowing river. While others might be quick to share opinions, you are cautious. You understand that words have consequences. This makes you an excellent researcher, strategist, or technical writer. You possess the Saturnian focus necessary to drill down into complex subjects that would bore or overwhelm others. You don't just want to know what something is, you want to understand the structural integrity of the logic behind it. The educational crucible. The third house also governs early education, and Saturn here often indicates a structured or perhaps difficult start to the learning journey. You may have felt like a slow learner initially, not because of a lack of intelligence, but because you refused to skim the surface. Saturn demands mastery. If you couldn't understand the foundation of a subject, you couldn't move on to the next chapter. As an adult, this translates into a formidable intellect. Many people with this placement become lifelong students or experts in their fields because they have developed the mental muscles through sheer persistence. You likely value traditional education or certifications, seeking tangible proof of your mental competence. There is a drive to be perceived as an authority, and you achieve this by being more thorough and more prepared than anyone else in the room. Siblings and the immediate circle. The third house rules our brothers, sisters, and neighbors. With Saturn here, these relationships often carry a sense of duty or distance. You may have been the responsible sibling, felt a heavy burden of care for a brother or sister. Conversely, there may have been a coldness or a physical separation that made you feel like an only child even if you weren't. Your local environment might feel restrictive at times. While some find joy in the bustle of their neighborhood, you might feel the need for privacy or find your neighbors to be sources of lessons rather than simple social interaction. Travel, too, is often seen as a necessity or a task rather than a leisure activity. Short trips are usually planned with meticulous detail, leaving little room for spontaneous detours. The gift of mental endurance. While the shadows of Saturn in the third house include pessimism, mental fatigue, or a tendency toward black and white thinking, the rewards are immense. You possess a Teflon mind, one that is not easily swayed by propaganda, hype, or superficial trends. Your skepticism is your shield. Over time, the restriction of Saturn turns into refinement. As you age, the anxiety surrounding your intellect fades, leaving behind a voice that is authoritative, respected, and grounded in reality. You become the person people turn to when they need a clear, unvarnished truth. You don't just think, you build structures with your thoughts, creating a legacy of knowledge that stands the test of time. Your journey is one of moving from the fear of being misunderstood to the power of being undeniable. The sign occupying the third house cusp acts as the flavor of Saturn's discipline. It dictates the specific style of your mental architecture and where you feel the most pressure to be perfect. Aries, thinking is cautious despite a desire for speed. You may struggle with a stop-go energy in communication, fearing that your assertions are too aggressive or, conversely, not forceful enough. Taurus, a fortress-like mind. You process information slowly and methodically. You are likely very stubborn once you've reached a conclusion, valuing common sense over abstract theory. Gemini, Saturn is surprisingly strong here, as it provides a net for Gemini's scattered energy. It creates a serious scholar who can organize vast amounts of data, though it may cause anxiety regarding mental cleverness. Cancer, thoughts are heavily influenced by mood and memory. You might be defensive or tight-lipped about your private life, using logic as a shield to protect your emotional vulnerability. Leo, communication is treated as a performance that must be flawless. There is a fear of looking foolish or being ignored, leading to a very dignified, authoritative, but perhaps rigid way of speaking. Virgo, the ultimate editor. This is a highly precise placement that can lead to extreme perfectionism or analysis paralysis. You have a gift for technical detail but may struggle to see the forest for the trees. Libra, mental energy is directed toward fairness and diplomacy. You may feel a heavy responsibility to be the judge in your social circle, often weighing your words so carefully that you find it hard to take a definitive stance. Scorpio, a detective's mind. You are naturally suspicious and excellent at keeping secrets. You communicate with intensity and depth, but you may struggle with dark thoughts or an obsession with what remains unsaid. Sagittarius, this creates a conflict between the desire for the big picture and Saturn's need for the small details. You may be very dogmatic about your beliefs or feel restricted by formal religious or philosophical systems. Capricorn, Saturn is at home here. This is the hallmark of a profoundly disciplined, realistic, and perhaps cynical mind. You treat information like a business asset and only speak when there is a practical reason to do so. Aquarius, thinking is highly structured but unconventional. You may be the sober voice in a group of radicals, seeking to apply scientific or systemic rigor to futuristic ideas. Pisces, the most difficult placement for Saturnine logic, as it tries to put boundaries around a cloud. This can lead to confusion or mental fog, but it eventually produces a person who can give structure to spiritual or artistic concepts. The Great Reality Check, Saturn Transiting the third house. While the natal placement of Saturn in the third house speaks to a lifelong skeletal structure of the mind, the transit of Saturn through this house, which occurs roughly every 29 years, is a temporary intensive workshop in mental discipline and environmental restructuring. It usually lasts about 2.5 years, and its mission is simple: to prune away superficial thinking and force you to build a more functional, resilient way of interacting with your immediate world. The mental sieve. When Saturn enters your third house, the first thing you may notice is a sudden lack of patience for triviality. If you've spent years engaging in gossip, doom scrolling, or scattered learning, Saturn arrives like a strict librarian demanding silence. This is a period of mental consolidation. You may find it harder to focus on 5 things at once, but your ability to focus deeply on one thing becomes your greatest asset. Psychologically, this transit can feel heavy. It is common to experience mental fog or a period of self-doubt where you question your own intelligence or the validity of your ideas. Saturn is testing the foundations of your beliefs. If a thought pattern is based on an old insecurity rather than reality, Saturn will make that pattern feel increasingly uncomfortable until you choose to change it. This is not meant to depress you, but to make you intellectually bulletproof. Restructuring the daily grind. The third house governs our local neighborhood, the commute, the grocery store runs, and the daily administrative tasks of life. Under this transit, these areas often become points of friction. Your car might require expensive repairs, your daily route might be blocked by construction, or your inbox might suddenly feel like an insurmountable mountain. Saturn is forcing you to find a better system. This transit is the perfect time to overhaul your schedule, adopt a more rigorous filing system, or finally master a piece of technology you've been avoiding. The goal is efficiency. By the time Saturn leaves this house, your daily life should run like a well-oiled machine, primarily because you've stopped trying to take shortcuts. Relational accountability. Relationships with siblings, cousins, and neighbors often undergo a stress test during this transit. If there have been simmering tensions or unspoken resentments, Saturn will bring them to the surface. You may find yourself having to set firm boundaries with a sibling or, conversely, stepping up to take on a significant responsibility for them. In some cases, this transit brings a period of physical or emotional distance from your kin. This isolation serves a purpose. It allows you to define who you are outside of your family role. You are learning to communicate as an adult among adults, rather than relying on the dynamics established in childhood. The educational harvest. For students or those in communication-heavy careers, writers, teachers, coders, this transit is a make or break moment. It is an exceptional time for serious study. If you begin a certification or a difficult writing project under this transit, you are likely to finish it, provided you respect Saturn's demand for slow, steady progress. You may find that your voice changes. Your writing becomes more concise, your speech more deliberate. You are no longer interested in being the loudest person in the room, you want to be the most accurate. Conclusion. The Saturn third house transit is a journey from mental clutter to mental clarity. It asks you to stop talking and start listening, not just to others, but to the quality of your own thoughts. While it can feel like a period of intellectual winter, it is during this cold, quiet time that the most enduring truths are forged. When Saturn finally crosses into your fourth house, you will emerge with a mind that is no longer a chaotic whirlwind, but a precision instrument.